and Twitter. Like the page, follow them there on Twitter, and do whatever you can to help Adam out. Adam, thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville. We'll see you next week.
We came to fight the corporate state against all forms of control. We retaliate. We're not asking questions, we're making demands. Get out of my way, get off of my land. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. Your authority. We don't want to be an institutional commodity. We recognize the cracks in your facade. We don't believe in your patriarchal God. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be a political prisoner. I want to free all humanity. I don't want to be another fucking prisoner. Amnesty is an inherently defeatist position to take, one that is contingent upon surrender in order for prisoners of war to be released.
All right, folks. Good evening and welcome to UCY.TV. This is the Liberty Battles radio show, and I'm your host, Alex Allen. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on UCY.TV this evening. And I come at you live here for the Liberty Battles radio show every Monday and Friday at the same time, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time. Again, right here on UCY and only here on UCY. I've also been doing something recently where I've been taking video along with the show, and then I've been splitting it up into clips and uploading some clips that I find important or interesting from the show. I've been uploading them to YouTube. However, for the last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to do that because beginning last week, I was having some problems with my camera that I use, with my video camera that I was using, and so I don't know. They're just always something in the way of doing things the way you want to do them, isn't there? But you know, that's fine. You can always find an archive of the show of some of the most recent shows anyway right here on UCY. And on the UCY YouTube channel, the full shows, just the audio, no video, just the audio with a picture from the show of all the shows here on UCY are automatically uploaded to the YouTube page over there, to the YouTube channel over there, so you can go check that out. And if you want to review the show, or if you missed part of the show, or if you missed the entire show, you can always go check it out over there. So that is always a good thing. Well, once again, welcome, folks. It is Friday, March the 7th, 2014. And since it is Friday, that means it is the political overall news analysis, news, culture, society, government, politics, everything show tonight. If you don't already know, the Monday show here on Liberty Battles is Gun Talk, where we talk about guns, gun politics, industry news for firearms, for the firearms industry, just everything related to guns we talk about on the Monday show, guns and culture, guns and society. But then the Friday show, again, is more of a well-rounded show about all kinds of stuff, news headlines, important things that are going on. I talk about some of the articles that I have written, which if you don't already know, I am a writer. That's my primary thing. You know, I do this show and I do some other stuff too, but primarily I'm a writer. You know, that's what I love to do is write, and that's what I am trying, you know, I guess really to make a career out of is writing, but I do write for a couple of different websites. I write for a website called digitaljournal.com, so you can frequently find a lot of my articles over there. I also occasionally write for the antimedia.org. In fact, I have a big piece I'm working on right now for the Anti-Media that I'm going to be hopefully getting up within the next several days over there on the site. I've been working on it for a little while, but this is one that I'm going to be working on for a long time because I want to make sure it's perfect. It's over counterterrorism and the security state. But that's going to be coming out over there. Again, that's the antimedia.org. I also have a sort of a blog, half news site. It's sort of in the middle of things, developing right now. newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com. You can find it over there. I will be getting rid of the blogspot part soon and getting an actual domain for it. So look forward to that. And I've been in talks with some writers who are supposedly wanting to come on and contribute over there, but I haven't gotten any of that worked out yet. They say they do, but then I don't know. So anyway, that is the deal there. Also, I'd encourage you to check me out in social media. You can go give me a like on Facebook at facebook.com/libertybattles. Again, that's facebook.com/libertybattles. That's the primary one for my, for all of my alternative media and, for all of my independent media work and stuff. And you can also go give the Alternative Journalism Facebook page a like. I also admin over there and post a lot of my content over there as well. And that is facebook.com/alternative journalism. I also encourage you to follow me on Twitter. I'm in a couple of different spots over there. At Liberty Battles is my news account, where I tweet out a lot of news articles, links to different video clips, and all kinds of different news and information over there. And then my personal account is at ALN845. So I'd encourage you to follow me on both of those accounts as well. And again, as always, check for my articles and stuff. I've been trying to get back into writing and doing a lot more of that here recently. So that's what's going on over there. And wow, got a lot of stuff I would like to talk about on the show this evening. Got all kinds of interesting things. I don't really even know where to begin. I've got an article that I wrote just a couple of days ago for Digital Journal over a 10-year-old kid who was suspended for shaping his finger like a gun. Many of you have probably already heard this story, or if you haven't heard this story, you've probably heard other stories that are similar to it. But I'm going to be breaking that down. I've also got an article that I wrote a few days ago over Stephen Colbert and what he had to say about the New World Order and all kinds of stuff like that. Chemtrails. He spoke about chemtrails, New World Order, Bilderberg Group, Illuminati, all kinds of stuff. I wrote an article over that as well. We've also got a couple of different interesting headlines. I want to kind of break down Rand Paul's CPAC speech because I forced myself to watch that a little earlier and I about vomited. But anyway, if you don't know, I'm not a big Rand Paul supporter, folks. But anyway, I'm going to be kind of breaking down and giving you my points of view on that. And then, of course, we have Ted Cruz now coming out and saying he wants to abolish the IRS and all that stuff. That was an article that I saw earlier. They were mentioning his stance on the IRS, and people are promoting it as he is the savior of the libertarian movement. And a lot of so-called libertarians and constitutionalists are propping Cruz up as being this savior, this God. And of course he isn't, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And plus, we've got some cop news, some police brutality news. That's always fun to talk about. Cops tase parents in front of kids at birthday parties, and that's always fun. I guess I'll start off with the oldest article here, which this is an article that I wrote several days ago. It's titled "Stephen Colbert, My Character Believes in the New World Order." Again, that's Stephen Colbert, My Character Believes in the New World Order. I wrote this the other day. This was about a video. I wrote the article about a video that was on the We Are Change YouTube channel, Luke Rudkowski, We Are Change. If you're not familiar with them, I'm sure you are. Most people are familiar with Luke Rudkowski and We Are Change. He does great work over there. I really, a lot of people will be controversial. Had just about every figure in this alternative media movement, I guess, every prominent figure is sort of controversial. People will say, oh, this person's a shill, this person's an insider, this person is crap, this person's suck. But Luke Rudkowski is one of the people I've never heard anyone criticize him. I've never heard anyone say, he's a bad guy, because really, how could you? Luke Rudkowski does great work. He's confronted Henry Kissinger. He's confronted a lot of your big insider globalists. He has done great journalist work, and he's just genuinely a nice guy. Based on some of the stuff that you see over on his YouTube channel and in his various pieces of work that he does. So I want to get into this a little bit. I'll read you a little bit of the article that I wrote for digitaljournal.com, which again is titled "Stephen Colbert, My Character Believes in the New World Order." Comedian Stephen Colbert recently said that his character believes in quote-unquote conspiracies like the New World Order, chemtrails, and the Bilderberg Group, but he doesn't personally know enough about them to formulate an opinion in real life. If you're familiar with Stephen Colbert, you know that he will take advantage of almost every opportunity he gets to hold a mirror up to society. On his Comedy Central program, The Colbert Report, Colbert plays a naive, often narcissistic, ultra-conservative who has good intentions, but often fails to see the whole picture. He has even taken his character outside of his own show, roasting then-President George W. Bush at the 2006 White House Correspondents' Dinner and appearing at a congressional hearing on agriculture in 2010. Despite his use of sarcasm through his character, however, Colbert can sometimes be found in a rare, serious form. Luckily, reporter Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change was able to catch him in one of those moods and got to hear a serious answer to a serious question. Rudkowski, who was on record confronting rich and powerful men like Henry Kissinger about the Bilderberg Group, Illuminati, and the New World Order, pointed out to Colbert that he often brings up some of these very same topics on his show. Rudkowski then asked Colbert what his serious stance was on those issues. Of course, Colbert started off by saying that he never has a quote-unquote serious take, but that his character believes anything is possible and that each one of those things is a true conspiracy. He then explained that he personally doesn't know enough about the topics to say whether he truly believes them to be legitimate conspiracies, but he also said he finds nothing wrong with bringing up the subjects. We Are Change once asked Colbert at a book signing who he thought was truly behind the world policies, to which he jokingly replied, the Illuminati. Now, again, that was an article I wrote. For digitaljournal.com. Stephen Colbert, My Character Believes in the New World Order. And, of course, on that note, I was talking about how no one has said anything bad about Luke Rudkowski because he's such a great guy and he's done such great work. And I see someone posting something in the comments now, major damning evidence against Luke Rudkowski. Of course, there's always going to be something. I mean, if Jesus Christ himself were on earth and, going around feeding the homeless people, we would have damning evidence against him. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, I don't even know. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand here. Stephen Colbert. Now, Stephen Colbert is a guy, if you don't already know, he has a program he does on a network called Comedy Central. It's a TV network. And now I obviously I don't watch a lot of TV at all. But when I do watch TV, one of the shows that I will often watch is the Colbert Report, because I really enjoy it. I don't like Jon Stewart as much. If you know anything about that lineup, you'll know Jon Stewart and Colbert's shows are back to back. I can't remember which one comes first in the lineup. I don't know enough about TV lineups, but Colbert and Jon Stewart shows are back to back, and they're basically kind of the same premise, a satire news show. You know, they both sit behind a news desk and present the news in sort of a satirical way. I kind of prefer Colbert's style, and I also think Colbert is more of a genuine, authentic person who kind of brings up the truth sometimes. And now you can argue against Colbert. You know, you can say whatever you want to about him, and he's obviously he's not perfect, and no one who has the major show on a major network, in the mainstream, no one like that is actually going to be perfect. You know, they're going to be, somewhat sold out to the establishment, I guess to an extent. But Colbert, I think, is a good guy, and plus he's funny. I like funny people. I enjoy laughing, and I don't like to take things completely seriously all the time. I enjoy a good laugh. And, Colbert, definitely delivers that. Now what he's saying here is basically this. He's saying that his character that he plays on his show often, brings up these conspiracies and throws them out of whack and, goes off on a tangent and starts, going crazy about them. His character does that on his show. But he personally doesn't know enough about them, he says, to formulate an opinion of his own, which is a respectable answer, I suppose. And I noticed, Colbert was genuinely he was smiling, and when he was talking to Luke Rudkowski, if you watch the video, he was smiling, and he said, there's nothing wrong with bringing up the subjects, though. He said that, and I think that, definitely it could be argued that he said that to save his own skin. I think it could definitely be argued that Colbert actually knows more than he's putting on, but that he's just, he's doing that to save his own skin. Once again, I think it could legitimately also be argued that he genuinely doesn't know enough about it. But for someone to be at the forefront of all of this stuff, as much as he is, and, to have such a public, position like this, and, for someone like him, it would be almost impossible to not know much about some of these things, like, like the Illuminati, or like the New World Order, or like the Bilderberg Group, like, all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. Again, it could be argued either way, but either way, you have to admit, you have to respect Colbert for at least saying, there's nothing wrong with bringing up the subjects and talking about that. And you have to respect him for his satire and for his comedy and the way he presents things, because, more often than not, the points he makes through his satire, through his comedy, by pointing out the idiocy, by pointing out the ignorance of the average American through his character, he really makes a lot of good points on his show all the time. And again, that's why I like Stephen Colbert, and that's why I will continue to respect him until he gives me a reason to not respect him. Now, he said some things before that I would disagree with. And again, he's not perfect, but I do appreciate Stephen Colbert, and I thought that was an interesting enough video, an interesting enough short little interview that Luke Rudkowski had with him. Thought it was interesting enough to do an article over, so I did it, and I talked about it, and so there it is. There it is, Stephen Colbert. And again, if you want to read my article in its entirety, and if you want to, which I believe I just read most or all of it to you, but if you want to see it for yourself, and if you want to see the video, which is actually embedded in my article, if you haven't already seen it, it is titled Stephen Colbert, My Character Believes in the New World Order, and it is over on digitaljournal.com, which is, once again, one of the websites that I write for. Alrighty, moving on along, I want to get to another article that I wrote, switching gears quite a bit here, getting into a little bit of gun news. Again, I say the Monday show is the gun talk show where we talk about gun industry news and gun politics and just everything related to guns, everything related to firearms. But the Friday show, that doesn't mean guns are going to be off of the table for the Friday show. Occasionally if I find an interesting political, gun story or, any sort of gun related topic to bring up, and I think it doesn't, deserves to be talked about, and it can't wait until Monday. A lot of times I'll talk about it on the Friday show, and this is the case here. This is an article I wrote a couple of days ago for Digital Journal. Finger Bang is the title that I went with. 10-year-old suspended for shaping finger like gun. And again, this is an article I wrote for digitaljournal.com. A 10-year-old boy in Ohio was recently suspended after he shaped his finger like a gun, which was apparently in violation of his school's strict zero-tolerance weapons policy. No more cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians on the playground, kids. According to Devonshire Alternative Elementary School in Columbus, Ohio, anyone who even pretends to have a gun is in violation of school policy. Not only was 10-year-old Nathan Inting, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. Not only was he suspended for 3 days after shaping his finger like a gun, but he was threatened with a much longer, perhaps even permanent suspension if it happens again. According to CNN, the reasoning for the suspension is being described by the school as a look-alike firearm. This certainly isn't the first case of a controversial zero-tolerance weapons policy in action. Last year, an interrogation over a toy cap gun led a 5-year-old Maryland boy to wet himself. He was suspended, but his suspension was eventually reversed after his parents hired a lawyer and fought the school. In a bizarre scenario, students were offered counseling last year in case they were traumatized by an incident involving a strawberry toaster pastry being shaped into a gun. Nathan's father mentioned that none of his 5 children have ever gotten into trouble at school until now. So yeah, definitely a story worth reporting. I have reported on so many of these incidents that have been going on for the past couple of years here, where kids are just being left and right, just being suspended or expelled from school or threatened with arrest. I believe maybe in some cases they've even, I don't think anyone's been actually arrested yet, but been threatened with arrest and, suspended and expelled from school and all kinds of craziness. And a lot of the younger kids intimidated until they cry and wet themselves in the case of this one Maryland boy. But there have been so many of these instances where, kids are bringing toy guns to school or, bringing plastic water guns or Nerf guns. Or, bringing like there was one 5-year-old girl last year who brought a Hello Kitty bubble gun. It was a pink plastic toy gun that shoots bubbles. And a 5-year-old girl brought it on a bus and then she was suspended, because it was a gun. You can't have those on school. And so there have just been so many cases of these. And I've reported on, and written articles over and talked about them on my show. I've done as many of them as I possibly can without it being completely redundant, because there's so many of them that it does often seem sort of redundant just to repeat it over and over again. Well, oh, what do you know? This happened again today. It's like saying, it's almost now like saying the sun came up today. Oh, well, another kid was suspended for pretending to have a gun or for having a toy gun at school. Big deal. The sun came up today. Breaking news, right? But I do think it's important to point all these out, so I continue to do it. This one obviously, no different than the others, just a kid, playing around, he shaped his finger like a gun. He didn't even have an actual object. He did not have an actual object that could have been, construed as being an actual weapon. He didn't have anything that could have been potentially misconstrued. He didn't have anything that could have been potentially, dangerous or caused a stir or anything like that. It was just his finger, it was just his finger, which shows that it isn't about protecting people. It isn't about, being overly cautious even. It's just about a total authoritarian, total authoritarian attack on guns. It's just a cultural attack on guns, a cultural paranoia hype against guns, against firearms. And, so again, so many of these cases, and it's just absolutely absurd. One of the ones that I always point out when I'm referencing other incidents, when I report on these, one of the ones I always point out is the one last year with the strawberry toaster tart, the Pop-Tart, that a kid shaped a strawberry toaster tart, a Pop-Tart, whatever you want to call it, into the shape of a gun by eating it. And then not only was he suspended and there was a whole situation involving that, but it was what happened after that. They actually, at the school, offered counseling. They offered counseling to the kids in the class who could have been traumatized by the event, Oh no, a kid ate a Pop-Tart and it came out looking like a gun, and supposedly these kids are traumatized by this? I think they would be more traumatized by the reaction of the school system, by the reaction of the administration. I think they would be more traumatized by that reaction than they would have been by one of their classmates just eating a Pop-Tart and it coming out looking like a gun. So I don't know. This is just psychologically, just on a psychological level, this is just messed up. This is just completely messed up. And, there's not much else that can be said about this. So obviously, the zero tolerance policy on guns, absolutely crazy. I mean, I've seen articles where last year and the year before, kids were actually put under lockdown, for hours. Entire schools were put on lockdown for hours, for like 6 hours, and the parents didn't know what was going on, and the parents were freaking out, and, they didn't find out until after the whole incident was over. And again, lockdown, kids were scared, everything was going on, and it come to find out it was over a student who had been talking. He was overheard talking about Nerf guns with another student. He was talking about Nerf guns. For one, a Nerf gun is a toy plastic, it's a plastic toy that shoots foam balls and foam darts. It's a toy. So first of all, that's the first strike against the school system. Second of all, the kid was just talking about it. He didn't even have it. It wasn't even possessing one. There was absolutely no Nerf gun or nothing resembling a Nerf gun found on the premises, but they sent in the entire SWAT teams. I think they actually had a helicopter circling the freaking school, and they just sent in the whole SWAT team over some kid talking about a Nerf gun. And again, in all these instances where they have lockdowns over these crazy stuff, the parents don't know what's going on. There isn't communication between the schools and the parents telling them exactly what's going on. So the parents can only assume the worst, that, oh my God, there's a shooter going around the school, or there's a bomb or something. My kids are in danger. My kids might die. The parents are freaking out. And of course, a lot of the parents get mad and sue the school systems after these things because they weren't told, they weren't informed. And it's just a whole mess that could be avoided if we didn't have this cultural paranoia about guns. Oh my God, every time a gun is even remotely mentioned or thought about, we have to ban it. I mean, I posted on one of the Facebook pages. This article when I wrote it the other day, and I saw a comment on one of the Facebook pages. I don't remember what it was. It was probably the alternative journalism page, but I saw a comment someone made on it, and they were talking about, this stuff happens. I was suspended from school a couple of years ago for having for drawing a picture of a gun or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they said, but just drawing a picture, and they were suspended because we have to have this paranoia about guns. Guns are bad, and you shouldn't think otherwise. But I don't know. I mean, it's just a mess. It is just a mess, and they only want the cops to have the guns so that the cops can go around being total, so we can have a total police state and the cops can go around being big jerks and just doing anything they want to, which brings me to my next article here that I'm going to talk about. This is not one that I wrote. This is one that I found earlier today. This particular article is off of a source that a lot of people don't, really like. And I understand people's problems with this source. And, I've said it before, I disagree to an extent, but, whatever. I'll just go on with it. And, I'll tell you, it is from Infowars.com, but it is a legitimate story because it was coming off of local affiliates and things. And it was, it's all legitimate. It's all factual. But here's the story here. The title of the article is Video Cops Tase Parents in Front of Kids at Birthday Party. And this was written by Steve Watson. Again, video Cops Tase Parents in Front of Kids at Birthday Party. Cops in Baytown, Texas stormed a child's birthday party after being called out following a minor family dispute, breaking out tasers and leaving frightened kids screaming as their parents writhed on the ground in agony. KHOU 11 News reports that police were alerted when some of the adults at the party began to argue between themselves. Jody and Christopher White, whose children were at the party, became the target of responding officers being ordered to leave. The couple claimed that they were unable to leave the scene, however, because police were blocking them in a parking lot. There were police in the parking lot blocking it in, so we couldn't move, said Jody White. Mrs. White admits that she lost her temper and shouted an insult at the cops, immediately prompting them to get violent. And then they just rushed my car and opened the door, and tasers were just everywhere, she said. The father, Chris White, was also tasered during the fracas, which was filmed by a family member on a cell phone. What did I do to deserve this? White asked. I didn't expect this at all. This was the last thing on my mind, he added. The Whites revealed scars on their backs from where the points of the taser darts entered their bodies. For them to treat people like that for no reason at all is not right, said Mrs. White, who had officially filed a formal complaint against the officers. So here we have, it's a minor confrontation. It's just a small dispute here. There's nothing huge. There's no real violence going on or anything. There's nothing really illegal at this point going on from what I'm understanding. Nothing illegal at all, but of course the cops are called out because the cops are always, cops always have to intervene in these sorts of situations. And the cops are called out. They arrive on the scene to break up this small little family dispute that's going on. And then when the woman is trying to leave after, the cops, tell them to leave, here's what happened. The cops order these people to leave. Then they can't leave. The woman can't leave because the cops have them blocked in. So, she's already mad anyway. She smarts off a little something at the cops. Then the cop comes at her with a taser and starts tasing her and her husband. I mean, this is just absolutely absurd. I mean, just absolutely absurd. A cop has to have more dignity than that. The cop has to have more respect than that. A cop has to have more discipline than that, than just to go randomly tasing people or randomly, inflicting physical harm on people when they're not doing anything. Yeah, she smarts off to you. Big whoop, Why don't you go home and cry about it, you big pansy? Yes, I am calling the cop a big pansy in this situation. I mean, my God. Seriously, why don't you go home and cry about it? Why don't you whine a little bit? Why don't you bitch a little bit? Take it like a man. You're a cop. You're a freaking cop. You're supposed to uphold the law. You're supposed to protect people, protect and serve, instead of going around tasing people because they insult you. I mean, cops are just bullies with badges. Bullies with badges is all they are. And I'm not saying every single cop is a bad person. I'm just saying in general, that's how it's designed to be these days, and that's how the system is propped up, and more police departments are becoming filled with just bad cops. because they're looking for bad cops. And it's all, again, it goes back to this thing I've talked about before. It's this narrative that promotes this sort of attitude, this sort of personality. And it's this narcissistic, personality, this holier than thou attitude. This idea that, I'm better than you because I have a badge. And they have to feel like that. They have to feel important because, again, most of them were probably bullied when they were in school. Or most of them were probably, picked on. Most of them were probably, maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they were, whatever. And again, as I've said before, I'm not making light of these issues. Bullying, child abuse, even whether it's psychological or mental or physical abuse, doesn't matter. They're all very serious issues and they need to be dealt with. But in most of these cases, they weren't dealt with properly because society doesn't have a good way to deal with these things. And, so you have these kids who have these issues like bullying or abuse that weren't dealt with properly. So then they grow up, and they feel like they have to emotionally to feel good about themselves. They have to beat down other people because that's all they've been taught. That's all they've known all their lives. So they feel like, again, to feel good about themselves, they have to beat down other people. And so then you have a lot of these people joining police forces so they can feel good about themselves. And then they wind up going around tasing women when the woman's just insulting him. I mean, if the woman had been attacking the cop and punching him and slapping him and choking, I mean, yeah, sure, taser, whatever. I mean, this wouldn't even be a story, worth telling. But, I mean, when the woman just insults you, suck it up and take it. You're a freaking police officer. You're supposed to be, you're supposed to be a model citizen, You're supposed to uphold the law, not, bitch when someone, is, smarting off to you and then go tase them. So, I mean, just absolutely absurd. I mean, I don't know, folks. It's just this narrative. It's just this society we live in where all of these cops just have to feel like badasses. These people have to feel like badasses, and it's the same way with the military too. I'm not saying everyone who joins the military joins for a bad reason, but more and more we're seeing a lot of these people joining the military because they have to feel like, they're a big badass, so they get to go over and, kill a bunch of people overseas. Ooh, I get to kill a bunch of brown kids, I'm a big badass. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? I just don't get it. But what these people don't understand, whether you're a cop or whether you're whether you're in the military, whatever, what they don't get, what they don't understand is that, they think they're on this power trip. They're on this power trip. They think that they're perfect and they're above the law and they can do whatever they want and they're in control and, they can talk down to people and beat people up whenever they want to. And they're on this power trip. But what they don't get is that they're far from being in power of their own lives because they're being the bitch of the system. They're the establishment's bitch. They're the government's bitch. That's all they're doing, and it's just sickening. It's just absolutely sickening. And so I will leave it at that before I just get redundant and start saying all of the things that I know I've said billions of times before on this show about the police state and the police brutality and this whole issue we have with this out-of-control, narcissistic personality disorder that we have, where you have to feel like you're on a power trip and you have to feel like you're better than everybody else and you have to just be a badass. And so again, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to repeat myself and say the things that I know I've said billions of times before on the show. So let's move on. I want to get into Rand Paul and Ted Cruz. So So I again, this is another case where I'm probably going to go off ranting and saying things that I've said before, but here, let's just take this as it comes and see where it goes. But, Here's an article that I see floating around a lot today, and people are pointing it out, and for some reason people are pointing that it's an old article, but people are pointing it out and hyping it up as this is a big great thing. Ted Cruz is Jesus now, and he's going to save us all, and he's a libertarian, and he's perfect, and he's amazing, and he's wonderful, and he does no wrong. So the article is actually from the National Review, and it was from June 3rd, 2013. Cruz calls for abolishing IRS, moving to simple flat tax. Senator Ted Cruz offered a solution to the IRS's scandal: get rid of the agency entirely and simplify the tax code so that tax returns fit on a piece of paper the size of a postcard. We ought to abolish the IRS and instead move to a simple flat tax, Cruz said on Fox News over the weekend. Put down how much you earn, put down a deduction for charitable contributions for home mortgage, and how much you owe, he continued. It ought to be just a simple one-page postcard. Take the agents' bureaucracy out of Washington and limit the power of government, he said. Cruz called the recent scandal a manifestation of too much power in the federal government. So here we have, and again, I'm not really sure why this is being floated around so much today, but it is, of course, being floated around. And this particular article, where he's saying Ted Cruz is calling for abolishing the IRS, moving to a simple flat tax, and it's being pushed around, and I hate it because he's being, once again. Here we have Ted Cruz being propped up as, he's a libertarian savior, he's liberty, he's pro-liberty, he's anti-tax, he's anti all this stuff. Well, I'm so glad that Ted Cruz is so kind that he wants to simplify the way the government steals from us. I mean, isn't that just so kind of him to want to simplify the way in which the government steals from us? Because that's all taxation is, right? It's theft. Especially when you're talking about an income tax. It's theft. And it can't be regarded as anything more than theft. It's theft. How could it be regarded as anything other than theft? You're having your money that you earn taken from you, and you're not voluntarily giving it away either. So it's theft. Something's being taken from you, and you are not voluntarily giving it away. It's not a voluntary interaction. It's theft. It is theft. It's complete and total theft. And anyone who disagrees with that statement, anyone who would disagree that taxation is theft, cannot and should not call themselves a libertarian. Because it's simply not true. Libertarianism is supposed to be based on this idea of freedom, of liberty. At the very least, constitutionality. We're all the libertarian movement here in the United States has always been about, just going back to the Constitution at its surface. Limiting government. But anyone who even remotely supports, I don't care if he wants a flat tax. Oh gosh, it's going to be simpler when the government steals from me. I'm not going to have to do as much paperwork to have the government steal from me. Oh, isn't that fantastic? Isn't that fantastic? I mean, isn't it? Oh, folks, just absolutely nuts. So again, I don't like Ted Cruz. I really don't like Ted Cruz, and he's being propped up as this libertarian savior. He's not a libertarian savior. I mean, the guy is, his wife is part of Goldman Sachs. He's on record. He's just a total insider. He's a total establishment, total insider. And I don't like the guy. He's a piece of crap. He's another politician trying to get elected and get power in Washington and get a bunch of money, and he's just a piece of crap. Ted Cruz is a piece of crap, and he's not a libertarian, and he doesn't have your best interest at heart. Anyone who thinks so is very naive. Sorry to say it, folks. You're very naive if you think Ted Cruz has your best interest at heart. And the same goes for the sellout piece of garbage Rand Paul. I don't normally talk about people like this, but my gosh, when you're this bad, like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, pimping out libertarianism like this so that you push your your closet neoconservative establishment agenda, pimping out libertarianism, pimping out liberty, pimping out true freedom, so that you can promote your closet neocon agenda, your establishment agenda, so that you can line your pockets with Goldman Sachs money, and so you can line your pockets with Monsanto money and whatever other corporations and entities and banks are lining your pockets. I'm sick of it. And you're nothing more than a piece of scum if you're selling out true liberty-based beliefs like this. It's disgusting. So I saw Rand Paul's speech today that he did at the CPAC conference, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Saw his big speech that he gave, and everyone's just so fascinated by it. Everyone in the libertarian movement is just so fascinated by it. Oh, isn't he just so wonderful, this Rand Paul, this beautiful piece of human being, this just chip off the old block, this great guy. And he's a piece of crap. And he's up there, and I can tell throughout the whole thing that he's lying through his freaking teeth. And I can see through his lies. I can see through all the BS that he's pulling out of his butt. And I want to vomit when I'm watching it. And so if you haven't gone and watched it yet, if you haven't gone and watched Rand Paul's speech, and you're actually awake to the establishment and you know what's going on, and you'd like to puke, maybe you want to purge your system this evening and just get it all out of your system. Maybe if you want to puke this evening, why don't you just go watch Rand Paul's little speech that he gave at the Conservative Political Action Conference today. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And it's all this propaganda of, I'm a libertarian, I have your best interest at heart, I'm all about a constitutional government going back, and I love the Constitution, I love liberty, and I'm gonna repeal the NDAA and everything, and if I was president, here's what I'd do, and everything is just fantastic and peachy and wonderful, and we gotta stand up for liberty and blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's just the whole thing, and he's just regurgitating all these BS talking points that he's said before, and he, one quote he said that a lot of people are pushing around in the headlines today, or this evening is, we will not, Mr. President, we will not let you shred our Constitution. Wake up, buddy. Mr. Paul. The Constitution was shredded a long freaking time ago. The Constitution was ripped to pieces a long freaking time ago. We are under a mafia-controlled corporate dictatorship, and we have been for decades. We are under a mafia-controlled corporate dictatorship. That is the best descriptive terminology that I can think of to describe what we are under right now, to describe the system that we are living under right now. It is a mafia-controlled corporate dictatorship. And anyone who thinks we still have the Constitution on our side, anyone who still thinks the Constitution still means something in society today, anyone who thinks that it hasn't been already just completely ripped to shreds and burned up and used for toilet paper and thrown aside, you are so naive and you're so full of crap. We don't have the Constitution anymore. It was ripped to shreds decades ago. Decades ago, folks. We have a mafia controlling our government. We live in a corporate state. We live in a corporate dictatorship controlled by the freaking mafia. There's nothing constitutional about that. So this whole thing where he's saying, we're going to stand up and we're not going to let them take our Constitution away. Wake up, buddy. It's already gone. You can't stop them from taking away something they've already taken away decades ago. I mean, we have indefinite detention of U.S. citizens. We have no Fourth Amendment rights. We have random checkpoints on the street. We have the TSA sticking their hands down our pants and looking for Al-Qaeda under our nutsack at the airports. We have the Homeland Security Agency. We have the NSA spying on our freaking phone calls, buddy. We can't say what we want. We don't have any First Amendment rights anymore. They're taking away the Second Amendment rights. They're trying to in most places. They're, we don't have the judicial rights we're supposed to have when it comes to a trial. Again, we have the indefinite detention thing. We have, so much crap. You can't smoke a joint if you want to, which again, I'm not advocating smoking joints. I've never done drugs. I never plan to do drugs, but again, it's the United States of America. We have this constitution that's supposed to, protect us, from government invasion in our private lives, and, you can't even smoke a joint if you want to. You can't walk down the street without being oppressed. You can't walk out of your own home without being oppressed. Every time you talk on your cell phone, your constitutional rights that you supposedly have are being violated. You don't have a constitution anymore. We have natural rights, and that's what we have to stand up for. And that's why all these unconstitutional laws, if you don't agree with them, don't obey them. Don't obey the unconstitutional BS laws. If you get stopped at a random checkpoint, you tell them, no, you're not going to search my damn car. You're not going to search my damn car because I have a natural right to not have my property searched and seized at random just because you think Al-Qaeda might be hiding under my hood. I don't know. I mean, just ridiculous. Just ridiculous, this whole freaking system. So again, Rand Paul, he's going to be the savior, and he kept mentioning President Obama. He kept making, little comments about President Obama, and of course the little sheeple in the audience, the little Republicans, the little conservatives, they would, applaud him and clap so much for him. Oh yeah, when he would diss Obama, that president of ours, he's just doing this and he's doing that and he's terrible and he's bad and he's awful and he's been doing all this stuff. Stop with the Obama rhetoric already. Stop with this whole idea that Obama is awful. Obama is evil. Well, obviously he's evil. I mean, you wouldn't sell out to the establishment and get to that point in the political world and be doing all this stuff and going along with it if you weren't somewhat evil. But he's not behind all this. We are controlled by the freaking mafia, folks. We're controlled by a corporate dictatorship. It's not Obama. It's not Romney. It's not McCain. It's not, it's not George Bush. It's not any of these people. It's not Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or John McCain. It's not any of these people. It's the elites up at the top who are controlling the system. It's this whole system that has been created by design to oppress everyone. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy how you see Rand Paul, who's supposed to be regarded as this savior of humanity, savior of the Constitution, savior of the libertarian movement, where he's up there saying stuff like, "Oh, that Obama, he's just terrible. We got to stop him. Democrats are bad," and blah blah blah. Just give it up already. You make me want to puke, you pathetic piece of crap. So sick of politicians and their BS. I'm so sick of it, folks. So sick of it. Now, I don't usually like to get off on a total rant and be all negative and everything. I'm generally a positive person. I like to stay positive and happy, but sometimes, it's important to get a little angry and point out. I mean, this is the truth, folks. Politicians are scum. Politicians are crap. And anyone who can get the backing, the mainstream backing that Rand Paul is getting, that Ted Cruz is getting, anyone who can get that backing, you better believe that they're a sellout piece of crap and they're part of the problem, not the solution. And all these people who say, oh, they're just pretending to be part of the establishment and then they're really going to get in there and they're really they're going to screw the establishment, you know, they're going to two-time the establishment and, you know, they're going to get in there and really change things. You are so full of crap. If you actually think the establishment, this whole system, these rich and powerful, these wealthy elites, they didn't get all this money and wealth and power by being idiots. If you think that they're going to sit back and not see that little Rand Paul is playing them for a fool and he's actually going to get in there and do great things in office, you're so full of crap. You're so full of crap. He's bought out by the establishment. He's bought out by the freaking establishment. And even if someone were to get in, and let's say by chance you are able to get in, and then you do some good stuff, they'll just assassinate you. Just like they did with Kennedy. I mean, people are so naive about this political system, thinking that, there's still hope for the political system. There's still hope for the two-party systems. We can revive the Republican Party, or we can revive the Democratic Party, and we can really change things, or we can, you know, have a new party, the third party that's going to be great, and we can get these politicians in office and they're really going to change stuff, and we just got to keep electing people and, you know, don't give up hope in the political process. Those people are so naive. So naive. So naive. It's not even remotely funny how naive these people are. To think that there's still hope for the political process when we, again, are living under a mafia-controlled corporate dictatorship. Just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy, folks. I just do not even know. Wow, we're running out of time, folks. I haven't even realized that I've been ranting this whole time, and we've only got about 4 minutes left on the show. But I did pretty much get through everything that I was hoping to get through this evening. Got through the Stephen Colbert article, the 10-year-old being suspended for the finger gun, just absolutely nuts, and of course the cops tasing the parents at the kid's birthday party, and whole 9 yards there. And then Rand Paul and Ted Cruz are beautiful, wonderful saviors, just wonderful, wonderful, awesome people. Oh, aren't they so great? And this is why I've lost faith in a lot of media people too. This is why I've lost faith in a lot of people that I used to really support. Alex Jones being one of them. You know, I still think Alex Jones does good work for the most part. But when you become part of this system that supports people like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, and you don't call them out for who they are, Alex Jones is smart enough to know what's going on with Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, and I know he sees it. So when you become part of that system, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't have much faith left in very many people, who are prominent figures. You know, I have tons of faith in humanity, because I think regular human beings, the average Joe on the street, I think we can all rise up and take back our system. We can take back our world. We can, advance as human beings. But as for politicians and media people and people who are in the mainstream, or somewhat mainstream at least, I just can't support them anymore. I can't get behind any of these people, because they're all so terrible. They're all selling out to the system, and this fake idea of, we can still rely on the political system. We can still rely on politicians. They're still our saviors. We gotta vote. Well, here comes my bumper music. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Check out Facebook.com/Liberty Battles. Follow me at Alan845 on Twitter. Thanks for listening tonight, and God bless all of you.